Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. So we're going to open this up and I'm going to ask you this. What if leadership could feel less like pressure and more like purpose? My guest today blends strategy with soul, proving that compassion and clarity can be a powerful foundation for success. With a voice rooted in emotional intelligence, storytelling, and service, she's redefining what it means to lead with heart in high stake spaces. And so I am so excited to chat with her today. I think this is going to be a fun, enlightening conversation. But before I bring her on, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirls.com. I say this every single week. And why? Because three things. One, if you have missed any episodes, you can catch up on all of them there. You can also keep in the know of what's coming out and sign up for our community newsletter. And lastly, if you are an entrepreneur or maybe you're kind of on the cusp of starting something new, or maybe you're in the thick of it, I don't know. Wherever you are, I've created a 2-minute quiz that you can take that will help you understand what your number one success block is that may be impacting your success. So go over there, take it. It's fun. And you will maybe find out something new about yourself. Again, that is startergirls.com. All right, let's get our guest on today. So joining me today is Emily Erstad, healthcare executive, indie author, and soulful leadership coach with a master's in speech language pathology. Emily currently serves as a regional operations strategist and executive director in the hospice space. She's built high-performing heart-centered teams and coaches emerging leaders to grow with clarity, confidence, and compassion. As the author of It's Not That Deep, Navigating Leadership Through the Lens of Emotional Intelligence, Emily explores emotional intelligence, self-worth, and intentional living. Whether in the boardroom, on the page, or behind the mic, she's a voice for leadership that heals and transforms. So welcome, Emily, to the show. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
This is going to be so much fun. I'm excited to get with you here today. So Emily and I got to chat a little bit before, or actually last time we connected, and it was fun because I always love those conversations that we have sort of pre-podcast, because I get to know a little bit about the human and who they are. And so I love what you're doing. And I think you're just a neat, awesome young person. I love it because I think you're like maybe I want to say an old soul in a way.
Totally.
Is that what it is? Maybe that. And I've always kind of been that way too. And I'm older, but I feel like even as a young child, people would say that to me. My brain was always sort of kind of thinking ahead, and my friends were always much older than me. And I always found it so difficult to like assimilate with my peers that were the same age as me. I just always felt like we were having these weird conversations, you know? So I'm just excited to have you on here today. I think this is going to be such a fun conversation.
Yeah, me too. It's been so fun getting to know you and all these people through this experience that can so relate. Because you're right, I have always been an old soul, and always really struggled to connect with people around me in like a similar season or stage of life, and that's always confused the crap out of me because I'm like, why don't I? Why can't I like get on the same wavelength as you? And so like having those groups of people that I knew I could bring value, but it took me, I think, probably 10 times the effort just to get people on the same page as me. And that became very exhausting sometimes because I'm like, so am I just like out of my mind, or am I just, in a different page, in a different season? And it's been cool to kind of look back on that through my writing and see how I've grown and identify my strengths, but also be very aware of what my weaknesses are and how to approach life moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and I hear you when you say that. I never like to say I know how somebody feels, but I can hear what you're saying because I think that is so true. I think for so long, when I don't know how you define that really, because when you're in that space, you often, like you said, think there's something wrong with you. Like I would go sit down with, like a group of girls that are kind of all in, I feel like are sort of in the same space, but I would have such a hard time connecting because my brain would be like on a whole different, I'm not saying I'm necessarily smarter, but
Mhm.
just in a different season of my life, right? Like different parts. It's like now like it's even like so much to say, like coming from in the business world, like when I started my business and my kids were little, and then I'll go sit down with moms, for instance, who have young kids and all my kids are grown now. Like I'm in a whole different season. So the conversations are just different. Right. And so I feel like I've always kind of done these things at a little bit younger age. And so I've always been sort of like two steps ahead in a way. And so those conversations have just always been different. I've always done really well with kids that were like people that are really younger than me or just older than me. That's how it's always been. It's either
Yeah,
like the old group or the young group I could navigate. So I hear you when you say all that. I
totally.
get it.
Yeah,
I
I
get it.
used to feel very envious of those people because I'm like, gosh, it just looks so simple for you guys and so effortless to connect. But I've also
Right.
really learned to embrace the depth that I've gotten to have from being an older soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's brought me, different seasons of life, different friendships that have met those needs in those moments of time. But I can tell you, it can also give me quite the complex of like, should I have said that? Do people understand me? What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Do I know what I'm talking about? Half the time I don't. I think I do, and I think that's where it can get kind of messy,
Yeah.
quickly and like almost cause a self-imposed imposter syndrome when you're just trying to exist. And that's always been a tricky battle that how do you explain that to someone without not sounding confident? Because I'm
Right.
confident. I am. It's not like a
Yes.
confidence issue. It's okay, I want to connect with you. I see the value in this friendship, but like you are so effortless in everything you do, and everything I do is so deeply rooted in my core. And so it's like, I don't want you to feel like the heaviness that I feel because that's just how I exist. It's not something I get to pick,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Right. I wish I could. I wish I could just flip it off like a button
No, you can't. You
people
can't.
like can go live in a van for a year. Like I would love to, but to have that kind of just go with the flow personality, I aspire to be that person, but it's just not my calling at the moment. And so I think
No.
sometimes I find myself not angry because that's the wrong word, but it's very frustrating when I know I'm in a different season than everybody around me. It can be very isolating, especially when you find yourself in these leadership roles that require you to be on an island because you have to make decisions that you don't want to hold other people, accountable for, because it's your job to own that responsibility. And I find myself walking that really fine line of vulnerability, but not um, allowing them to absorb my stress that I've agreed to take on as the leader, and that's been a new version of myself I've been exploring honestly in recent weeks that I'm like, I don't even know how to handle the stress. Like I'm doing the best I can. I'm okay, but I don't feel like I have it locked in, and I think everybody goes
Mhm.
through that.
Yep.
But it's interesting to see like I wrote this book called It's Not That Deep. Yeah, I'm still struggling to apply it to my own life because I'm like, this is brutal, so it's easier said than done.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that book in just a minute, and I want to talk about what you're doing, but I want to talk about this right here because
Yeah.
this is such an important thing. And this is so funny when I do these episodes, I never know like where these are going to like start and go and take off. And I love this, but I think this is such an important thing you're talking about right here because I don't think you need to change you. I think, what this is that the people that cannot, that the people that resonates with, that resonates with. Like I always tell people for a long time, like I used to have people tell me all the time as a child, I thought, like I would think too much, especially like when I was dating, you think too much. You probably heard this your whole life, right? Like you overanalyze. Okay, listen, you're just a deep thinker. And here's the thing I have learned, I'm in my 50s now. So I've spent many years going through that whole, like, is there something wrong with me? Like, do I need to be like assimilate? That's just who you are. And you know what the thing is, Emily, is here's what I say. People know when they sit down with me, this is not going to be a surface level band-aid conversation. Okay. You're
Yeah.
going to think when you get done talking, I may wear you out, but you are going to be thinking when you leave the conversation, right? You're not going to go, oh, well, that was boring. No, because I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to force you to think about what you're holding on to. Like that's just the way I operate. And that is because that's how I live my life. I don't just go with the status flow or because everybody's going to the, the right, I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to do what's right for me. And that's going to force me to have to think outside the box and be different. And I've learned that, I think I finally have learned to give myself permission to be okay with that. Right. Because I feel like the people that resonate with show up in your life. Those are the people that stick around, they get to know you, and they like Emily. You know what I mean?
And I think I've had to get okay with the different depths of relationships that come into your life. Like I'm so used to, because I'm so deep, I think every relationship I have
Right.
needs to be as deep as me. It doesn't. Like, and honestly,
No.
I don't think I want that either, because it exhausts me too. Like at the end of the day, I'm tired. Like you don't, everyone's like, oh, you just never stop. You never stop. And I'm like, you think I love this? People always think like I have this like neurotic energy, or I'm like, I'm
No, but
I'm a runner. I can't stop. I'm like, if I could, I freaking would. It's not it's not an energy issue. It's not I don't know how else to explain this. I'm like, I just am gifted with this drive, gifted that it just never stops. So
yeah.
I'm like, you don't think I want to go park my butt on a beach for 3 weeks and not care? Clearly I do. But like,
Right.
there's drive in me that's bigger than all of that I have to honor, because it's a part of who I am. And so everyone's like, well, you need to learn to be still. I'm like, if my drive to be still was higher than my drive to accomplish these goals, I promise you I would do that. But I
Right.
think I get really sick. This is being really kind of bold here, but I get so sick of people telling me to slow down, because I'm like, you don't think I want to do that? Like, you don't think that I'd have enough self-awareness? I write books. Like, I know what no one's going to know me more than I know myself. So you don't have to educate me on slowing down. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where to put this energy moving forward, because I don't have an option. If I had the option, I promise you I'd exhaust that option. And so I think that misunderstanding I've struggled with most of my life has caused a lot of frustration, and also can be very lonely and isolating, because I'm like, you just don't see me. And sometimes I don't have the energy to get you on the same page. Like, I don't really care. And it's not that I don't. And I think that was a really huge point for me, where I was like, you don't care. And that's okay. That's a gift, because you always care all the time about everything. And it's like, and I think I have this fear of running in the wrong direction my whole life, or putting energy or focus towards something that isn't going to serve me in the future. It's not I don't want to, I run really fast, really hard, and I always do slow down. Like, people don't know that, but you never ask. If you ask, you'd know, hey, when I write these books, when I'm journaling, when I'm this, when I'm that, I am slowing down, but I have such an intensity to me. I have to put that somewhere. It can't sit here. Like, this is me, it's not me striving to be someone I'm not. And so I think that's where it's really interesting. It's really continued, like, and I don't want to go back, but like, writing recently of like, okay, what does this mean? What does this season mean? Because I'm frustrated. I thought I had this figured out. I thought I had developed some emotional intelligence. And now I am struggling to even sit with myself in this moment. And I'm like, it can be so defeating when you feel like you're walking this path and it gets cyclical. But I think there's also a blessing in that, because it's like, you've already done this before. This is a new context. So use those strategies, but keep an open mind and don't get defeated. Because, I mean, what are you going to do, right? Sit there and just let it absorb you? I mean, you could, and some people do that. That's not an option for me. But I will say it moves my life in a really fast pace. And it's hard when I'm literally 30 doing things that 45-year-olds do. So I don't really know who to go to for mentorship, or who's going to understand the stress that I'm handling, because people that are 30 don't understand this. Not in the way that I understand it. And so now I'm embarking on this journey of a really heavy career, a really heavy series that I'm writing, a marriage, like all these things that I'm like, okay, and you can go ask 10 people for advice, but it's not their life, And so I think, how do you stay true to yourself, navigating this, still feel the feelings? Because then I do this crap where I gaslight myself. I'm like, everything's good all the time. I'm like, Emily, it's not good. And you can say that. Like, you don't have to fix it. You don't have to fix you. So I think just sitting in that truth is my version of be still, or that pause that I need. But it changes daily, and it's a freaking roller coaster. And it's wearing me. I mean, I'm in the thick of it right now. So I'm kind of glad I get to talk about it, because I hope I look back at this one day and think, I remember that. And I know I'm going to be like, oh, and then I'll be looking back at it in another really hard season. I think that's why I'm so called to speak about this, whether it be podcasts or writing or whatever it is, because I think us introvert, and I'm not introverted, but I am, because when you are such a deep thinker, it forces you to be introverted, because sometimes you just don't have the words to tell people how you feel. And so I think my goal is to build a network of people that understand this and feel seen, because I think feeling seen is something people that think so deeply struggle with. And we need that, because it will turn into this cycle of like, am I crazy? Am I feeling too much? Like, you don't know who to ask because you're stuck in your own head.
Right.
It's easy to say, get out of your head, but like, let's be freaking real. How? Nobody's really out of their head. Like, it's attached to your body. So I don't know what we're saying, And so it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
like, not to rant, but like, what in the world is this?
Well, I have so much to say to this, and it's so funny because you see me kind of smiling about this because first of all, I have a daughter that's 28, so I'm thinking I'm like, you're like so close to my daughter's age, okay, and I've got and these conversations are like all things I've had with my kids at different times and myself, but it's so funny because somebody was asking me the other day, like, who I work with in my coaching practice, and it's usually high achiever people that are like you and me because I get this. I get it. I get it. Like you've heard the saying, they always say it's lonely at the top, right? When you're working for things that you're excited about and you're passionate about and you're a go-getter, it's like you're doing too much. You're not doing enough, right? Like you're lazy. You're not, you're an overachiever, right? You're doing all these things. But really, I think the big message here in all of this is just be true to yourself and whatever that is. If you being a high achiever makes you thrive, that's what you're going to do to thrive, right? You sitting on the couch is not going to allow you to thrive, right? And here's the thing, I call it the crash and burn cycle because that's what I go through. It's where you go 90 to nothing and then you have a burn, except my burns get really bad. They turn into health crisis or just like something just really bad. And I have to sit in that for a while, heal up again, get back. And then here we go again, back to the crash and burn cycle, right? But this is the thing, the way you do you is you, Emily, and however you choose to make that downtime, if that's into your writing, whatever that is, that's your thing, right? Like I'm the same way. Like my downtime, I want to go exercise. I mean, some people will be like, why is that downtime? That's my downtime. Like, right. That's what I like to do sometimes I like to go play the piano. Sometimes, I want to go out and have social. I want to go out and go networking or something. So I force myself to get out and talk because yes, when you're in your head all the time, it's easy to sit in your head and want to stay in your house because you're working all the time and grinding. You don't want to talk to people, right? So I have to get out and force myself to go network so that I will do that. So I think the point here is there's nothing wrong with you or what you're doing. I think this is just your season you're in and you will laugh. I was cracking up because I'm like, yes, you probably will. You'll get to another thing and you'll be like, dude, I thought that was like a hard season. And oh my gosh, this is like worse than that one. But you know what? You're setting the stage for every season that you go into, right? And your priorities are going to change. You're going to evolve. And that's the beautiful thing. Like what's important to you now, today, 5 or 10 years from now, you might have kiddos and be in all, like more kiddos or wherever you're at. I don't know where you're at right now, but you'll be in maybe a whole different season, right? I was laughing, like, you're going to crack up. So I have cousins I'm the oldest cousin in our family. We don't have a lot of cousins, but the youngest cousins are like your age. I mean, they're young. They have little kids, right? All my kids are adults now. Like my youngest is 21. So I'm sort of close to that weird, crazy, almost empty nesting stage, which is so weird to me, right? But they have little people. And I was cracking up because my cousin put up a post one day about one of her young ones is playing soccer. And she was like nervous about the soccer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's downhill from here. It's all over. Just wait till they buy a motorcycle. My son just got a motorcycle, bought a Corvette. Just wait. It's like the minute they start driving a car and you have absolutely no control whatsoever, right? Or like when they think they're adults because they're 18 now, but yet they can't pay their bills, but yet you can't tell them what to do. Because I was just cracking up. But I remember being in that season, right? Like I remember being that mom with little kids and my kids were doing things and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. My kid's climbing a tree, get him out of the tree. Like it's just where we are in our seasons, right? Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful mess about it. That's where we are, and we get to embrace it and live it. And it's okay, to be where you are and what you're doing. And I commend you. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's been interesting too, because I'm not a fearful person. I mean, I'm sure if you ask my mother, I've probably kept her on the edge of her seat most of my life, and so, moved across the country pretty young with like no money to my name. And I wasn't reckless. I knew what I was doing, but it felt pretty reckless. Right. And, it's so interesting because for someone that hates loneliness so much, I put myself in a lot of very isolating situations because it's my comfort. And I've had to kind of, it's interesting how my life and how my cycle works. Is like if my life places me in these situations that just force me to face my worst fears possible. And I think, so sometimes I rush into things because I'm like, I just want to get this over with.
Right. Just do it. Yeah.
Hurt. Let's just get it over with. But then there's seasons like I'm in now where it's like, I can't bear to do this one more day. Like I can't be alone,
Mm,
feel lonely. I can't feel disconnected. And that desperation that comes with like, is it just me? And I mean, I don't think it's ever just you, just to be clear
right.
to anyone that's listening. I think there's something to learn from that. And that's like really philosophical and that gets exhausting in itself. But I think that's when the be still comes in of just get through it and quit getting into the thick of it in your head. Like sometimes it's just your endurance that you're building for something greater. You know,
Sure.
I've always found the closer I've gotten to really big goals, the harder my life has gotten every single time. And I'm in that season right now where there's just a bunch of opportunities arising at the same time, and some things are exiting my life without my choice. And it hurts because I wasn't ready to say goodbye. It wasn't my plan, you know.
Right, right. Sure.
And so it's like sometimes I'm just thankful that I didn't have to make the choice and I just have to bear
Mm,
the grief. But that doesn't mitigate the grief you feel of that loss when you weren't ready. And I
right.
think that's where I thought, you know, being a deep feeler at such a young age, I'm like, I'll never feel this again. I'll never feel this desperate again. I'm going to do so well that I never feel this again.
Right, right.
Ha.
Yeah, that doesn't work that way.
And so it's so interesting because we grieve
Yeah.
all the time, you know, and I think that's so ironic because here I am working in hospice where grief is so prevalent all the time.
Right.
And yet
Yeah.
I won't let myself grieve. And it's great. And I'm like, well, my grief isn't worthy. It's not this bad. This grief is, why am I grieving this? And I'm like invalidating myself when I could just say, you know what? I need to grieve this. I'm going to turn my sad girl music on and cry it out. And it's like, for me, I think where I struggle because I'm such a deep thinker is I can also torture myself and like feel something too long. And so I worry that I won't bounce back sometimes.
Mm,
I'm so in the thick of this. I'm like, when you're getting pushed to those kinds of limits like I am right now, I'm like, will I be okay? Like, will I bounce back? Because I don't feel good today. Like, I don't feel like,
yeah.
and that's,
Sure.
I know that's where the best growth happens and that's where I'm becoming the best version of myself. But sometimes selfishly, I'm like, I'm only freaking 30 years old. Do I have to learn every hard lesson right now? You
You
know?
do
And
because you're a deep thinker. You do. Unfortunately. Yeah.
fortunately, it's
I just
probably,
had this conversation today, Emily, because we're going through something kind of hard here in our
yeah,
house. And I said the same thing. I've had lots of, I feel like when you are, I don't know what it is. And it may be, you know, I know for me, and maybe this is true for you, is that I feel like because I have a voice, I feel like that we get selected sometimes to have those things to speak into other people, right? Like, which I want to talk about your book in a minute, but I sometimes I feel that as a I've had people say light seekers, you know, just call them different names. I think that we sort of get chosen to um have the everybody has hard things, right? But
yeah,
like you said, like you sometimes feel like you just get a lot, like they just come at it's I this is what I attribute it to. You're living life fully. You're
yeah,
living fully. You don't live life on the sidelines. You don't partake on a small level. You
no,
partake in a very big way. So you probably do a lot of things like you mentioned with passion and heart, right? You put a lot into it. So in order for that to happen, you've got to have the bad with it. You got because you would never be able to embrace the joy. And I firmly believe that, you know, like when you're in the thick of something, you have to cling on to that. You have to think about it because if you were living on the sidelines, you probably wouldn't experience much life, and you probably wouldn't have very much bad because you weren't really putting yourself out there to have good. You know what I mean?
oh,
And
totally.
so it's totally I'm with you on this. I feel like every time just about the time I get clear, I get something that I think life is coasting pretty good. I get hit with another bombshell that I didn't ask for. And it's like,
Devastating.
why am I having to deal with this right now? Why am I being chosen for this? I didn't want this. I don't care to have. I don't care to speak about it. You
No, I
know?
know. And that's where I feel too, because it's like I've also been given that gift. And I'm meeting, it's really interesting because the more aligned I get in my walk, right? The more aligned I get, I think I was very intentional. Something I value as like a core value is consistency and
Hmm.
authenticity. And so I
Yeah.
always wanted to be a very consistent, authentic person. Like I might not be the happiest every day. I
Sure.
might not be the, you know, the sunshine that you're used to, but you're going to call me, I'm going to pick up and I'm still there for you. And because I felt like through my life, I've never had that person. So I'm like, well, there's
Mm,
obviously a gap. Like we need more of this. And so
yeah.
it's interesting because like the more I align myself and find these opportunities, the more cyclical my life gets. And that can also, as inspirational as it is, can feel very trapping. It makes me feel trapped because I'm like, no matter how fast I run, because weirdly enough, I'm a runner, like a track star. You will
Yeah.
not see
Okay.
someone ghost you faster than me when I am so done. Like my poor staff are like, when you're done talking, you just hang up the phone. I'm
You
like, yep.
just said goodbye. Talk to you tomorrow. We're finished.
Like I need to breathe without your thoughts.
I'm
And
kind of
by
the
the
same
way,
way, Emily.
yeah,
I get
yeah,
it.
when
I
I'm
get
done,
it.
I'm done. But when I'm there, I'm so fully invested. And I
Right.
have to give myself that grace because I'm like, you can't do it all the time, but you can always be intentional with the time you can give because of your bandwidth, right?
Right.
And so I think I don't want to say frustrated because I see the greater purpose. Like I see it. I can even see the picture because like even having
Yeah.
these things to look back on, I'm like, I'm so thankful that I get this. It's funny because at such a young age, I was like 5 years old. My mom always reminds me, she's like, you used to say you wanted to be a missionary like as a toddler. And I didn't know what the heck that
You didn't even
meant.
know what that was. Yeah.
So it's interesting because, I went to be a therapist, a speech therapist to not manage people. I'm like, I can just have this one-on-one connection. But then I found that one-on-one is really hard for me to have boundaries with.
Oh, yes.
Because they
Yes. 'Cause you're probably an empath. You're very invested in that conversation. Yeah. And you're feeling it. You're feeling their pain.
oh, I'm like right there with them. And it's like so hard when you get
Yeah.
those like you just get charged with it suddenly and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't ask for that. And so then I was like, okay, this might be feeding into something that's not healthy for me. And so I somehow ended up in management. And I mention this because it's been my greatest wins, but my harshest struggles. And not only do I end up in management, I get in the probably most high stress scenario possible with hospice because the emotion
Yes. Yes.
high, the grief is high, like everything's heightened. And it's so interesting because I thought, little Emily was like, if I just create these environments of like not stress, I'll be fine. Cause then I don't have to handle it. And I'm like, but that's not your purpose. Your purpose is to create these environments and expand them past you so other people can find this peace.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's really cool, but like, I don't want to do that. Like, what? Like, I just want to go to work and come home. And it's so interesting because
But you would be so bored. You say that you would be bored. Yes. Yes.
and so it's so crazy because it's like I love my life. I love what I've got. Like it's so hard because I have this calling and I don't know what else it is and I feel myself getting closer to it. But when you get closer, you lose relationships, you gain relationships. Like you just do this. I always feel like it's a chapter closing. That's how the only reason I can that's how it feels. Like you're turning the page and you're
Right.
not
Right.
quite ready. And I'm like, okay, but this is happening faster than it happened last time. Like, how does this keep getting faster? I'm like, I don't want this to go faster. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm speed reading.
It's definitely I don't know what the word is with this. It's like this ebb and flow thing. And I think the good thing about this, Emily, is that the more like you're I don't want to say you're where it was or anything because I don't like to compare people. I don't like to ever compare people. But I think this will
Yeah.
get the more you embrace and it gets a little bit easier. I'm not going to say it's always perfect and you don't still wrestle with some of this, but I think the more acceptance you become, like for me, like for so long, because I felt misunderstood or like I still sometimes I think people a lot of times they look at me and they think that I'm like cold and that I'm like heartless. And I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I don't have time for drama. I don't get into drama. I am the nicest person you will probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Like I'll help you if you need help. Like I probably give away more than I should to people, more time than I really should. But I don't like being taken advantage of, and I don't like people being aggressive, and I don't like people, having drama around me. And I will, like you, I will run faster than you can. I will be done. I will be so over it. I'm done. I'm just finished with something when I'm done. And so I think the point that also that I'm making is that, when you start to really just embrace who you are and be okay with it, I think it gets so much easier because you realize I've just learned that a lot of people don't really like me, Emily, and that's okay. They don't. They a lot of, especially women, they think because I'm hard and I'm tough and I'm mean, and a lot of that's because my life has shaped me that way, and that's a lot of the hard things I've had to go through that have taught me really hard lessons about life. Like I've had two really weird medical conditions I've had to navigate that have landed me in the ER multiple times. They have caused me to be suicidal. That's why I wrote my book about that. I've been through an abusive marriage, and then I got remarried. I've been married 29 years, but I mean, I've had a lot of weird things in my life that have forced me to have to be the way I am. And that's okay. Right. I think the point here is that I've learned to just embrace who I am and be like, I just recognize not everybody's going to understand me. They're not going to, and that's not my job to make them. My job is to put a voice out to the people that want to hear what I have to say. And those people that can resonate with that are going to pick it up and they're going to get it. And they know what I'm speaking and what I'm trying to tell. And
Yeah.
like you, I like loyalty and consistency. If you call me up, I'm probably going to be loyal. I'm going to tell you truth. I'm not
Yep.
going to speak into you. I'm not going to tell you a bunch of stuff you want to hear. I'm going
No.
to speak truth to you. But you're
Yeah.
going to know where you stand with me at all
Always.
times. And
Yeah.
the beautiful thing, I even tell people when I get mad, like I'm not one to hold a grudge. I'm not one to say, go over there and be mad at you and hang on to this. Like I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm done with it. 5 minutes from now, I'm going to be your friend again. I mean, I'm going to be over it because that's how I am, And
Well,
so,
then it takes a lot of work to be that person. So it's like
yes.
this truth as like the fact that I even am comfortable to share this with you, that I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have just kind of walked on my merry way,
Mhm.
And I think to me,
Yeah.
that's for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
and the fact that I even trust you to be honest, because this is vulnerable for me to share my discernment with you.
Yeah. 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 No, and I get it. I mean, I get it.
That people come to you for it, and you're like, and then hate you for it at the same time. And I did find that to be very true when I started my role. I'm young,
Yeah.
I'm bubbly, blah blah blah. People have their perceptions of me. So
Sure.
coming into healthcare, which is predominantly women that are not 30 running companies, trust me,
Right.
I mean, they were not my friends, and I had deep-seated trust issues because I was trying to connect and they were manipulating, and it took
Yeah.
me a long time to realize your intention is everything. And if you're, so that's where I think professionally it shaped me as well, where I was like, if I'm just so consistently myself all the time and I'm so authentically myself, it doesn't really matter what people say because I know who I am and the people that matter know who I am. And so
Absolutely.
it's a very bold approach, but it's the only way that's worked because it's like you so desperately want that mentorship and that connection from people that have lived it. But if they're not deep thinkers and they're not empathic and they don't see beyond themselves and they're coasting in comparison to people like us, you don't want to ask advice from people that you don't want to be like, And so I
I
think,
would agree with you on that.
and
Yes.
that's where it got real weird because I remember when I initially started I had leadership, but then I went into like these executive director roles, which was just a whole other level of responsibility. And I was trying to connect with other women and they saw me as a threat and they were going to do
Mm,
whatever they could to take me down. And I was so flabbergasted. And it's so interesting because I would consider myself a very loving person. I'm
sure.
not a very trusting person. And so that's
Yeah.
hard. I think sometimes these seasons of loneliness we're kind of talking about that accompany the positions we put ourselves in force me to talk about trust, and it's interesting because on
Right.
my podcast, I've been really talking about trust and vulnerability and the spectrum and this and that. You can talk about that, whatever. But I think here the purpose of that is a little different. Sometimes you're forced into these seasons of loneliness because you need to learn to trust somebody. And
I would agree. Yes.
because like it almost like forces you to reach out beyond yourself because
Hmm.
to get so lonely to the point that you're desperate to reach out and trust somebody because you can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was like a knowing I just recently got where I was like, Emily, you're lonely because you're not embracing people around you. You're lonely because you're not letting people see you because you're scared of who you are. But you're not. Like you're okay. But I think these big challenges and changes, I'm someone that will take the path of least resistance and adjust myself to get where I need to go. I'm not so stubborn that I won't listen and change. I think
Sure. Sure.
there's only so much you can give and take, and people's opinions of you really only get you so far. Perception is everything though. So
Yeah.
it's like, who are we choosing? What are we doing? And I think each season of life brings a new chapter that requires you to shift a bit. And that's where I'm learning what that looks like. And I think I'll continue to learn, but getting in these new contexts, these new lenses, having conversations with people as authentic as we're having, and them just spitting in your face, and you're like, I can't believe that just happened. I'm
Yeah.
literally reaching out to you with framework and supports, and you're gaslighting me. Like it's so
Right.
unbelievable. And it's because they're hurt and they're insecure and they're reacting out of fear. So I don't know what the season is. And I share this
Yeah.
very transparently because I'm dealing with a lot of fear and self doubt. I'm dealing with a lot of, which there's no reason for. And I know that. But if I'm really honest with you, those are my intrusive thoughts. When I write down, and you can only cognitively reframe yourself so much. Like sometimes you just have to exist in those thoughts until they pass. And that's
I agree. I think so on that, Emily.
yeah,
Yeah.
failure. It's not that you don't know, it's that you just have to get comfortable knowing that these are your biggest fears. And I actually was going through a coaching session last night and I was like, I fear that I'm going to run too fast in the wrong direction. I fear that I'm going to focus on the wrong thing and miss an opportunity because I did everything because I've done it in the past. I have had blaring red flags on my face and out of loyalty stayed and hurt myself because
Hmm.
for what? And so I think that's where some of my fear can make me just hesitant and not really just very unsure because I'm all about hard work and tenacity, but I'm not about burning myself because like you, I mean, I developed an autoimmune disorder that ruined
Mm-hmm.
my life for a bit. Like I thought I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna function
Oh, the
anymore.
worst. I'm telling you, any
And it's
chronic
like,
condition.
yeah, and it became chronic. Now I'm doing
Yeah.
really well at managing it right now, but I can feel myself walking this fine line where I'm like calling some people I do trust, and I'm like, I'm not someone to say I can't do something. I can't do this. Like, I'm
No.
serious. I can't take one more thing and I don't want to reach this point, but it's where I'm at. And if I don't tell you, I just want you to know, like, I'm going to get through this, but like, I'm here and I can't. And I think that doesn't mean I'm less capable. That doesn't mean like everything is still true to what I've done to this moment in time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm speaking to myself right now. Like, everything is still true. You're still an author. You're still the ED. You're still a new wife learning your life. You're still a sister. You're still the daughter. Like, you're still this person. It's not one piece, you
Right.
know. And I think that's kind of my intention as a person. Like my purpose is, it's a whole story, and it's your story. It's my story. It's whoever's story. And getting really uncomfortable with the discomfort, but not seeing it discomfort as failure. It's not failure. It's
No.
you entering this next season of life. And so
Right.
quit beating yourself up over the fact that you can't be sunshine and rainbows today, or that you can't fix everyone's problems, because you're just existing. You're human too. You get grace too. And the grace that you give everyone else should be reciprocated. And if it's not being reciprocated, that might be the universe, God, whoever you believe, telling you that this is no longer a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And take that and don't do what I do and beat a dead horse and then be confused as to why this is happening. Because that's like the universe will be like,
Yeah.
hey, take this off your plate. You don't have to worry about it. And I'm over here like, no. Like,
Hit it.
it's
Yeah.
you want this. Let it take,
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
This is
So
the whole with this whole like 20, what do we do here? 35 minutes of emotion, almost 36 minutes of emotional intelligence IQ right here in this conversation.
pretty
All
cool.
this right here. Bingo.
Second
Talking about
thought,
navigating the complexities of being a high achiever and being authentic. And I think, this last part of this conversation, this sitting in emotion thing, I think is important, because I think so often, yes, we tell ourselves that we shouldn't be allowed to feel an emotion. And here's the thing, I think that's where stoicism comes in. I think that we should be allowed to feel the emotion. And I'm learning to now, this latter, I guess, I don't know what you call this part of my life, to be okay with saying, I'm angry right now. I'm sad right now. I am confused. I don't know what I am right now. I'm having apathy, whatever it is, sit in this, but also saying, I will get through this. I told somebody that the other day, because I'm sitting in the thick of something right now. I feel a little better today. Something dropped in on Thursday, and I've just from Thursday till yesterday, which is what, Monday. So Thursday, it hit me Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 4 days I've been sitting in this, and I've had this wave of different, I've been angry, sad. I've just had this wave of, today I feel a little bit more in a, I don't know what the word, proactive mode, in action mode now. I feel like now, but that was 4 days I've been dealing with that. And I was still functioning. I was still doing what I needed to do, but I just told myself, you know what? I will get through this. I need to process this in my head. It's not going to matter what somebody says or does or doesn't do. I just need to work through that in my head and process all of that emotion, right? So I think no matter what we're going through, we have this whole little grief cycle. And sometimes it's a long grief. Sometimes we go through the cycles very quickly. But whatever these pieces are, you've talked about letting things go and new coming in. I think we just have to go through them, and we have to give ourselves permission to accept that emotion, but also tell ourselves we will get through this, right? Give ourselves that knowing that we will work through this. Because you mentioned that earlier, thinking, am I going to be able to get through this? Yes, Emily, you're going to get through it. And you will, because you've done hard things before, right? I think it's just that telling ourselves, I will. I just need to be okay sitting in that feeling for a little bit and allowing myself that time to process that. And, depending on the circumstance, I don't want to come on here and tell anybody, because I work with people on this, and I don't want to come on here and say, well, do that in 24 hours or 10 minutes. Everybody's time frame is different. I tend to, on things that are not near as hard, like I'm a 24-hour window girl. So a lot of times I will say, I'm going to sleep on this. I'm not making any decisions. I'm going to stew in this, sleep on it. In the morning, it's a new day. I'm starting over. This
yep,
particular thing was heavy. I needed a few more days to get through it, So it
fair.
does kind of depend on the circumstance, but I do try to do things to help myself get out of that. And I think that's where great tools come in, writing, like you were talking about earlier, whatever that is, it can help us kind of facilitate that process. That's all part of the emotional intelligence, right? It's knowing where you're at in your stage, allowing yourself that time to grieve, but also knowing that you need to be smart enough to work yourself out of it too. Work yourself to a place where you can get back on point, because eventually at some point you got to get out of it, or it's not going to do you any good any longer. Right now it's not going to serve you well. So I
Yeah.
think all this stuff you said has been really good, and it's good. I want to talk a little bit about your book, because I know your book is, you're passionate about this. You're clearly passionate about all the things you do, and I can tell by listening to you, because you don't feel things lightly. And I know, I get it. This is me. I go to sit down with somebody and I go, and like when I'm done, I'm like, did I wear you out?
Yeah. I think we could go on. This could be like we
Oh
could
God, Emily.
go.
You know what's going to happen? We're both going to be exhausted. We're going to wear ourselves out in this conversation, because I told somebody the other day, I said, when I do these podcasts, I love them because I meet all kinds of people, but it's so funny because some people get on and they're very calm, and it's an easy conversation for me, because it's not necessarily, it's not a thinking conversation, but it's a calm conversation. And when I'm done, I'm like, okay, then I have some where we just ping pong it. It's like bing, 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 bing. And then I have these kind of conversations where they're like really deep, and then I get done and I'm like, man, that was good, but I can't think anymore today. Like my brain just needs to relax for a little while.
I feel that like that's my life every day at the end of the day. I'm like, wow, that was intense.
I know, and my husband will come home and want to put politics on, and I'm like, oh hell no,
Nope.
no, do not even. I'm like, how do you even do that? He's an engineer. I'm like, how do you even do that all day and then want to come home and look at that? I don't want to talk about guns, politics, any of our. I don't want to learn anything. I want you to put trash on TV.
Yeah,
Just
I want to watch some
trash.
bad reality TV.
Yeah, I don't want to have to get into any characters, any depth on
Don't make
anything.
me think. I just want to absorb. I just want to watch.
Okay, that's where TikTok comes in handy. You can just scroll videos, cats, look at cats and dogs, and people be like, you like to look at them. Like, how do you get lost in that? I'm like, I'm detoxing, dude. Man, I'm looking for cat videos.
No, I'm like, I'm getting inspiration to buy another cat. No.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. That's been part of our crisis. Is we don't want any more.
They were like, why do we do this? Ah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, he's like, please don't do that. Don't get inspired to do any of that. Maybe get inspired to like paint a wall or something.
I've painted many walls. You should see the house. Don't even get me started. People are going to listen to this and laugh their butts off.
Hey, we're giving high achievers hope that they're not insane, that it's okay to be you, and whatever the craziness and all of that is with it, right? That makes you the beautiful person that you are. But let's talk about this book, because I know I want to read it after talking to you. Like, I need to go get your book and read it. I think it's going to be great. So tell us a little bit about kind of the inspiration behind it. And obviously it's about emotional intelligence, but maybe give us what you want us to know about that thing.
Yeah. So I started as a blog, and then it kind of evolved into a book. I wrote it in 5 months, and just like live action, like chapter after chapter. I had a framework in mind of what I wanted. And then at the time I was actually overcoming some of my largest challenges, which was like vulnerability, timing, trusting the timing, and even if it's not yours, perfectionism and what that looks like, and how it can be your greatest diminisher of yourself. And so when I wrote it, I was like giving myself permission to say it's not that deep. And I'm like, well, that's really funny, because if anybody knows me, they know I'm the deepest person. So it was like an intentional oxymoron, because I'm like
telling yourself it's not that deep, Emily.
Yeah, this is permission to shut up. Like, so I was like, it's not that deep, because it create that space for you. And so, I wrote the book, and it was for the professional season that I was in. And I loved it. And it gave me opportunity to kind of show some of the strategies. So it has a lot of strategies in there that I use. It has a lot of metaphorical, real life conversation. I always kind of say there's so many self-help books out there. This isn't a self-help book. It is, but it's not. It's a spiritual guidance. It is is it self-help because that fits that niche?
Right.
But I find my book at the crossroads of self-help, and that poetic, raw, metaphorical, whatever. I don't even know how else. And so it's brought me on this very interesting journey. And so I've continued to write afterwards, because when I published the first book, I self-published it. I just wanted to check a box and say I did it. And then I was like, I just put all my thoughts on the internet really boldly like that. And it took me a minute to be okay with that, to be honest. So I published a book about a year ago. And I'm already on my second book because my husband was like, it's not that deep. He goes, really? It's that deep for you? And I was like, you're right. So at first it made me so mad because I was like, how dare you? I've worked my butt off. And then I was like,
Yeah.
yep, I need to keep writing. So I am actually about to find a way to publish my next book in
Okay,
2D
good.
to kind of honor both sides of it. And the reason I mentioned it all is because it's not, the whole purpose of the book is it never stops. So why would I stop? Right. And,
Exactly.
now
Exactly.
I'm in the season of life where we're echoing some of the things I've written in that book in different ways. But I really tied it to nature because that's where I find my peace. And that's why it has that, the ocean vibes and like all
Yeah.
that, because I think a lot of our life cycles reflect water and earth
Mhm.
and all these things. And I think there's something very spiritual about that, that we need to honor. And so that's kind of why I wrote it the way I did. And so if you're someone that resonates with this conversation or is looking for creating space to level up, or if you're someone that just wants to feel heard, I think you'd love the book. I love the book, even though it's really hard for me to read it right now because I've read it like an exhaustive amount of times, but it's cool
Yeah.
to be able to live that book in different contexts. And I think that's my favorite part about all of this is it's always relatable because you're always cycling back. And so I think it's a book that you could read every 5 years and get something else from it.
Mhm.
Because that's something I'm recently learning a year later.
Yeah.
As I look back at it and I'm like, wow, I see that, like I said that, but now I understand it in this context. And so it was supposed to be a timeless book. I think I achieved it, but I'm also going to give a couple more whacks at it with my next couple books. Just because I think it honors what I'm talking about, right? The different seasons, the different lenses. So as
Yeah.
I continue, I'm hoping to approach leadership through these different lenses that I'm approaching. Because I think what I'm saying isn't unique. We've all lived it. It's not
Mhm.
new. I think I've just found new language to identify it that might feel a little bit more raw. And that's kind of the intention behind it. And I'm hoping that there's room for me and my journey, and that you guys connect with that as well, because I think there's a lot of uh, opportunity behind this. I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think the thing, you're right. A lot of the messages are the same, but your story is your story, and that's what makes it unique. And I think also that, it's kind of like when I bring people on the show, if you read my book, I always tell people if you want to know my story, read my book. I laugh now because I wrote this in 2019, and yeah, I need a 2.0. I've learned so much just since the time I wrote this, but it's my story. It's
Yeah.
kind of what led me to where I am today, why I'm doing this. I mean, I'm a very much different person today than I was 5-10 years ago. I was in Mary Kay. I was in leadership in Mary Kay, a different space,
Sure.
and but I think the principles and the truths stand true, but I think the voices are different. And that's what I was saying, kind of alluding to when I bring people on the show, is that everybody knows my story and the things I speak of and the truths and what I'm putting out there. But you guys become a voice in that message that goes out. And sometimes that one person may hear what I say 10 times and they hear it through the lens of, hear it through a different set of mouths, a different set of eyes, whatever. And all of a sudden it speaks a new truth into them. And they're like, oh, I've never heard that before. And it's like, we've been talking about that, like I always laugh when the coaches want to come on the show and they're like, oh, well, I'm talking about holistic health and how the mind and the body are integrated and you can't separate business. Okay, that's my entire work. If you study anything that I do, you will know that I'm all about health and wellness. I'm all about all the things, surviving in relationships, financial, all the things. But I know that it all starts with us. And the only reason I know that is because these are all areas of my life I've had to work on. These are all, things that I've had to overcome or navigate or learn really hard lessons in the depths of those and can speak into them now. And so I think that your voice needs to be heard. And that's why we put these things out there, is because there is somebody that's going to resonate with that message that you're putting out. And that person will be changed by hearing what you have to say. So I want to commend you on that. So keep writing, because writing is not easy. And I admire you for doing it, because people keep asking me if I'm going to do another book. And I'm like, I am not doing another book right now. I do not want to do another book right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, when because you release a book and that's like the immediate question people ask you after
Yes.
releasing a book, fun fact. And I was like devastated because I'm like, do you understand how much effort that went into that book?
Having
But
a baby, Emily. When people go, right, are you going to have another one? Oh, well, hell no, I'm not having another one right now. I'm still dealing with dealing
I'm
with
still
this
trying
one.
to process what I put out in the world, but I won't lie, it's sped up my writing and I'm trying to write real time so that I
Yeah.
can be as raw and honest as I can be. But I think it's cool too to pair with these podcasts as I'm in the season because writing, talking, whatever, as hard as it is to get on here on days that you're just exhausted, So it fills your cup, and it makes you feel like what you're doing is worth it. And this is my purpose, even though
Yeah.
my worst days, it feels like it's not my purpose and I'm just draining myself. But, and if that's where you find yourself at, I think a lot of us find us there in this season of life, don't stop,
Yeah.
because even if it just means going from 30 to 10 miles an hour, it still matters, and I think that's kind of where I'm at. And it doesn't have to be your version of perfect, which we talk about, and it's not.
Yes. Save the
So yeah,
perfectionism.
with
Yes.
that, I mean, I'm
That's
saying it's
my number one subconscious block, by the way. As I was doing my whole, building out that program, that little quiz I told you that at the very beginning, as I was building that out, I realized in the midst of that perfectionism is mine, because I kept stalling and not getting it done. And I was like, I finally hired help, got
yeah,
help to help me finish, because then it
yeah,
forced me to have to
mhm,
get things done, because I was paying for it and people were counting on me to get it done. So
totally,
yes, yeah. Well,
totally.
Emily, this has been amazing. And you're right, we could talk forever, but I know you have things to do, and I certainly have things to do. I do want to ask you, if anybody wants to grab this book or connect with you, where do you want us to send them?
Sure. So Amazon, it's not that deep. You search it, it's on there. I also have a website, eepublications.com. It's in the middle of getting redone. Hopefully by the end of this episode, when it airs, it'll be fresh and new and beautiful.
Good.
You can connect with me on there with all my socials and everything. Send me an email. I'm happy to connect, and I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Thank you for chatting with us and for all your authenticity and rawness, all the things today. It was a great conversation, and I want to commend you for, stepping up and filling those roles. I know that's not easy, being a young person trying to navigate all the big things in the world, but it's like I tell my kids, because my youngest, I told you my youngest is 21, my oldest is 28, she'll be 29 this year, and she took a new role kind of mid-year last year as a bilingual school teacher, went back to school and got her degree and went back in. I feel like another hard profession to jump into, and I'm always telling her, like, you were chosen to do those things for a reason. And so you just be true to you, and step into the space and do the best you can do every day, and that's all you can do. Right.
Totally.
So I want to commend you for all of it, and keep writing and keep sharing, and we'll stay connected, because I want to keep up with what you're doing. And we'll
Cool.
also make sure when this goes out, we get the show notes in there so they know how to find the book and get in touch with you
Thank you
as well.
so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, our audience, we appreciate you, and hope you found this episode both informative and inspiring. And if you did, you know what to do. Do all the things, hit the like, subscribe, share, so we can keep sharing all this fabulous content. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.